Hello everyone and welcome to State of the Realm, your weekly Final Fantasy XIV podcast. This week, we're talking about Eureka. Yep, don't turn the show off just yet because we have some good things to say and we'll be sure to share the things that we don't like about it as well. We'll be talking about Hydatos proper as well as the public dungeon, the Baldesion Arsenal, which has been completed by both North American and Japanese groups at this moment. Sorry Europe, but Chaos had other plans for you. Anyway, I am one of your hosts, Michael, Mr. Happy Power. Of course, joining me is Sly, aka Slythefox, aka Sly, aka Greyfox, aka you, my boy Blue. How you doing?
I am doing pretty good. I'm not as like sleep deprived as you, but because I just took it casually, of course. But again, early congratulations before we get the show started to you and our guest.
Yes, and our guest is the next thing. Ethis was supposed to be on this show, but he's sick right now, so he had to pass. So very last minute, I went into Elysium and asked if anyone wanted to. And so we have a guest who you may recognize. He's been on Mog Talk many times. He was also someone streaming the world first clear for the Baldesion Arsenal, or I guess presumably the world first clear for Baldesion Arsenal. And that is our resident Black Mage Master, Sfia, who makes me want to play Black Mage, but I think about it and I go, nah.
That seems to be most people's approach to it.
Yeah. So how you doing, Sfia?
Really good. I feel like today I've had the weight of the world off my shoulders after finally getting it done. I slept so damn well last night.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling. I know that feeling as well. Thank you again for very last minute agreeing to be on the show. Literally went to FC chat, asked Layla, even asked Fold for Sly's sake.
Yeah,
but he wasn't there.
It almost happened. One day. I keep saying the birthday, July 3rd, or whenever we had the show that week, which is the first week of early access. Yeah, it's gonna happen.
No, that's the day after launch. July 2nd's launch, and then July 3rd's birthday.
That's right. Yeah.
And we are doing a show on launch, so just saying, you may get what you want. You don't know. I'm just saying, when Fold is on the show, we're not putting his Twitter handle. Like, we're not advertising it. He's not allowed to shout it out yet. None of that is allowed. Trust me.
Do you really want to take a break from leveling on? Well,
I'll be 70. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's fine.
80. Yeah,
80.
No, we'll be all right. Yeah, even Sfia's like, that's not a good idea. I've never been on this show before, but like,
yeah, Sfia said that in pre-show. He was like, yeah, that probably isn't a good idea.
So, I mean, if you're not going to link his Twitter, you kind of just can't even let him talk either, to be honest. So just have him there, but muted the whole time. That's probably the most successful way to handle that.
But don't tell him he's muted, and don't let him open Twitch chat. Like, everyone, he can't know. He just can't. Yeah, that's let's just say that during Prague, you're very brave for having mics on the stream when we're in the same group as him.
He's usually pretty well behaved whenever it's something even moderately serious. So
this show's very
how
serious.
Behaved was he in the Arsenal?
Perfectly normal.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He
yeah. You've played with him a lot, so you know, Sfia. He's trying to find. You're trying to find the right words for it. I can tell.
He's just fold.
He's just fold.
That's what we always say too. And what he was dead. But luckily today that was less of a problem.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about Hydatos and the Baldesion Arsenal today. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Before
we do that, though, because Sly made sure to call me out on it last week when I didn't do it at the start of the show. Rightfully so, called me out on it. We, of course, have the change the way we do the show. This will be the last time that I say that, even though we're going to be gone for a couple weeks after this. Thank you to our sponsors, SteelSeries. We do a giveaway for them every month. It's just free stuff. So what you need to do is go to the YouTube video, go to the description, and enter that giveaway because it's free stuff from SteelSeries. And if you're interested in SteelSeries stuff, until February 18th, they're actually also doing a Valentine's Day sale where on top of their discounts, my discount, Mr. Happy, less than 3, will also add another 10% off. So you can get like 30, 35% off on all that stuff. So thank you. Sellout mode over. We'll be thanking our Patreon sponsors halfway through the show. Ugh. This exact stance is exactly how I feel during this entire show. Just like stretched back. Just, ugh. All right. We can't just talk about the Baldesion Arsenal. We are going to.
You have to talk about Hydatos.
We have to talk about Eureka as a whole, because this is the finale of Eureka. And so at this point... No, but at this point, we have a complete idea of Eureka.
We have a complete idea, but I feel like we kind of drilled the point with Animos Pagos. I mean, we really didn't touch on it too much in Pyros because I feel it was a lot of good. And with Pagos and Animos, the bad outweighed the good. That's why we kind of highlighted them both for as long as we possibly could. I mean, would it be fair to say it felt, with the exception of the Arsenal, it felt like a victory lap?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think it's a little bit more tedious than Pyros in terms of progression, but it might just be because Pyros has gotten buffs, so I'm kind of like thinking about the buffed Pyros versus everything else. But it feels like this zone is like Pyros, and they just took a little bit out and made it wide open, and then threw in the Arsenal. Like the Arsenal I'm treating as a completely separate entity, even though it's not for judging this.
Right. Like
there's less NMs, there's no light grind that you can do in Hydatos, which we'll touch on a little bit. Thank you, Motorcycle. And it's mostly about the Arsenal and finishing the relic weapon, and maybe your relic armor if you did Pyros as well. I think it feels like that's the core idea here above everything else.
Directly comparing Pyros to Hydatos, it really feels like Hydatos is just an extra little bit on top of Pyros as opposed to its own new thing. Whereas Pagos and Animos were very separate, very, very different. And it just feels like a little bit more of Pyros. Not as large, obviously, in terms of map size and levels that you can gain, but it's the same systems. You know what you're doing because of Pyros now.
Yeah. As soon as I entered, I was like, oh my god, I have all my logograms still. I wasn't sure if they were going to let us like keep the exact same ones. Even though they kind of alluded to it, I was like, no way. Because if I go in, I already know to reflect everything. There's no way they'll let me do that. And then they let you do it.
They let you do that.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Kind of getting ahead, they even gave you a little handy-dandy island to go to if you are really feeling froggy.
Okay, so I was there for the Pagos race just to level, which was actually really cool because it was the JP team competing against us at the same time. I say competing, but we were just trying to get us there as fast as possible. And one of the biggest complaints about Pagos was that the combat in this game is not made for 16 hours of hitting your buttons in a row. Like, you just can't do that. So what they've done now is given you one button to push every 10 seconds with Reflect. Yep. That's it.
And they're very aware. A lot of people see that and they think that, oh, this is an exploit. No, they knew it. They've said as much. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they wouldn't give you an island just for sprites, just to level. Like, they knew what they were doing. That was purely intended.
And they all give logograms.
Yeah.
A lot of logograms.
A lot of logograms. Because I joined a party to finish. 59 to 60. And then I got to 60. And I was still in the party. And while I was, in the cutscene, all I saw was logogram in the middle of the cutscene. And it happened at least every 3 to 5 minutes. Logogram. Like, I forgot to exit out the party. And I had to wait through the cutscene just to...
I was saying, kick your ass out. You're just reducing the EXP they get at this point, Sly.
One thing I've noticed is that they don't reduce the XP you get with more party members from farming sprites.
I wonder if it's because of the level difference. Because it's somewhat similar in the previous zones. Like, if one person's a 6 level difference, the other one's a 5. The person who's different still get like a lot. What
we noticed in Pagos particularly was larger party sizes just split the XP evenly across them all. But now sprites in Pyrus and Hydatos give you a set value, and everyone in the party gets that set value. So they've completely changed it. They've made it you're more incentivized to take a really large party and go farm Sprite Island, as opposed to doing it solo and getting the exact same EXP, which is cool. That's a really smart change they've made.
Yeah, I wish they could make that change for certain other things, because everyone always tries to do their camps on their own across the rest of the map. They're like, well, no, I'm here. This is mine. They're not like, hey, why don't we just team up so, you know, you don't take one, then I take one. Like, no one tries to compromise in any way. Everyone's just kind of, well, I can solo it, so I will.
Yep.
Especially a problem over on Mammoth Island up in the top left, where if you can get that solo, I think I did a level and a half in 15 minutes from like 53 to 55. I think I was like halfway through 53. And I got to 55 in like 15. Yeah, just sold. That was before anyone had like done it. Like, I had heard rumors about it, and then I went over and I was like, and it was gloom weather, and there were level 58 death sprites there too. And I was like,
the motherlode, yeah.
And then nighttime hit, and I died.
I feel like we're getting a little bit ahead. So let's start from the beginning. Like, you first arrive in Hydatos. And you go out, you venture out. The one thing I guess everybody knows, or several things. One, it's wide open. There are no elevation changes, no cliffs you have to climb or anything, no jumping down, no walking past dragons.
No choke points.
No choke points.
One thing I noticed even before that, and this may be because I was so traumatized by Pagos, but when you zone into Pyros, this fire one, it's snowing.
Oh, thank
and
God,
we got into Hydatos, and there was no ice, no snow, and I was just relieved.
The first weather I got was snow, though. just to rub it in my face.
Yeah, the flashback's coming back.
What did y'all think of the change from what we've experienced thus far with like the previous iterations to this in terms of navigation and everything you notice? Sfia, you're a guest, so I'll let you go first.
It's very different, but in a good way. I felt like I was really limited in Pagos and Pyros even because of not only the Aetherites, but the choke points. It made it very unfun for being underleveled to try and get up. And I've just removed that now. You can get anywhere from anywhere. And that, I think, is the biggest change in terms of the layout.
Yeah. I share that, but I do think that maybe they went a little too far in one direction, because the idea... Anemos, I think, is kind of the best example of a zone that has some choke points and has mostly open areas at the same time. I think now, having seen all the zones, the best design one is probably Anemos. Going back, good variety in the different areas. There's many different kinds of areas. It's not just, even though it's a wind, you have like a rocky area over here, and you have the dark cave, the dark damp cave over here. Like, you have all these different environments, and it has these different types of map layouts.
It was a lot more atmospheric.
Yes,
I think,
yes.
And Hydatos loses that.
Yeah, being wide open is very convenient, very great, and it's part of the victory lap kind of feeling that you get from there, because you do buns at 50. You shouldn't be afraid to go get the treasure chest regardless of where it is on the map, which is very different from Pagos in particular, where it was like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, forget this bunny.
That's not happening. So I liked it. I'm glad it was different. I'm glad it wasn't, because Pagos and Pyros literally just look like the same map idea, just like maybe, Pyros wasn't as restrictive to some degree. But this was just completely different. I think that's good, because an island shouldn't literally just be a bunch of giant open area, small choke point. Giant open area, small choke point. It's more realistic to me to have at least one area like this in the zone.
Well, I will say this. In comparison to Pyros, they kind of toned down the mobs a little bit. Like, when you went out in Pyros, it was like they threw everything in the kitchen sink at this. I feel like Hydatos is not inherently trying to kill me as soon as I step out. Even though I will say this, like, they have really bad fucking city planning, quote unquote, when it comes to mobs. Because you walk out and like you have your 50 mobs. moves. That's fine. You stretch a little bit, you move like maybe a few feet east, and you are in the fucking ghetto. Like, you are in the hood.
You were in
like,
San Francisco proper, and then you went over the bridge. Now you're in Oakland.
Yeah. You are in the fucking hood. You are in a straight juvenile video. It goes from 50 to 60. It goes from 0 to bullshit in no time. Like, 50, what was it? The Nankas and everything that's around there, and then you get the Kerpikers that are 60. And then it just gets worse as you keep going beyond that point. I will say that, like, it's not trying to kill you, but just don't go too far the wrong direction. Don't go across the bridge. Please don't.
You could say at the same time, though, that is a very, like, intentional thing where they're saying, you're not meant to be here yet. And instead of doing that with choke points and dragons, they do it with this swarm of enormous monsters in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you learn your lesson one way or the other. You also are reminded that mantises are sound. I tried to walk past. There's like a little spot where like you can kind of like it's in between like a mantis up on a cliff and then like level 52 mobs on the right. And you try to go in, and then the mantis is like, no. That's come on. No. I had to res so many people there. I died there. It was a bad time as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know. I was just glad to have something that was different. It definitely could have been more threatening. I think they went too far in one direction, but I think I enjoyed it. I enjoyed having that absolute freedom to kind of look around and take in my surroundings and understand where everything was. Because if you think about Pyros and Pagos, it's even weirder because in Pyros, you have this whole area, it kind of starts normal. When you go up to the volcano, it's like, oh, here are the 40s and here are the 50s. So their intended path for you is literally like along the paths to the Aetherites and nothing else. It works the exact same here. 50 to 51 goes all the way down here. So there's like 55 mobs around the 51 Aetherite. And you go directly east and there's 60 mobs over there. So it kind of makes sense, but it makes more sense here than it did in Pyros to me. But I spent most of my time reflecting, so I don't know. I don't know what else to really say about it. The NMs in Hydatos are also easier, I feel, than the NMs in the previous two zones, personally.
Yeah, I can agree.
I will say that when we were leveling, because we just went in with 8, and the goal was get 60 as fast as possible to get into the arsenal and get our asses handed to us. But in the time it took us to get to 60, we spawned 2 NMs. So we got to the end with 10 crystals. And I felt very behind, but at the same time, I didn't feel like I was gated by not having NMs like I would have been in earlier ones, because there was a really good balance between EXP from mobs, because of being able to reflect chain now, and EXP from NMs.
Now, in comparison to spawn rates from Animos, Pagos, and Pyros, how did you feel the spawn rates were in the beginning for the NMs that you saw? Because clearly I saw my first few hours / day in Hydatos, there were only like, you were only spawning at least 2 or 3 within the same area, rightfully so, because nobody's going over to the east side of the map to spawn anything. So you only saw pretty much 3. But how did you feel like those NM spawn rates were?
Oh, no, you first, Sfia. You're the guest.
Me?
He's always talking to you first.
Yeah. So this is completely anecdotal, but I felt like at the start, because we only saw 2, that it was really low. But I think the problem is that if they made them any higher, with the amount of gear that we have now, we would destroy packs in 5 minutes, go to the next one, spawn everything in the instance within 30 minutes, and we're done. So I think it's at a good rate based on people's gear at the end of the progression cycle that you're going to go through in there.
The big thing we're noticing, as I always peek over at Eureka Explorers, for those who don't know, if you're someone who's big in exploration content, Eureka Explorers has been compiling information throughout the zones as time has gone on throughout the expansion. And if you are ever interested in learning more about Eureka or seeing it unfold in terms of what people are discovering, that's a great place to hang out. is that none of the bosses seem to have any weather or time conditionals outside of one having placeholder monsters that spawn at night. So I'm wondering if they exchanged weather and time specific spawns for needing to kill more of them, because it definitely feels like we need to kill more monsters to get bosses to spawn. Similar to Pagos, not that extreme, but closer to that, I suppose, as opposed to Pyros, where it's just like, well, whole zone's gone, see you later.
Well, I suppose it's a catch-22 in a good way, because people feel like a lot more people are chaining, and it's just, I feel like it's a non-issue to spawn those NMs, and it doesn't feel as, you know, long or as arduous of a task as it was in past Eurekas. It's because you're already there. You're already trying to either chain, or like you're outright just trying to spawn in it. Which I think a lot of 60s were in my, like, when I went in as a 59. Yeah.
Are there 60s? Because I don't see anything that's like 56 to 59 spawning ever.
Yeah, they're like when I went in when I got 60, when I was at 59, I joined a few parties because I was just trying to chain something, and I'm like just looking for 59, looking for chain group or NMs, vice versa, not yada yada. And I joined a party, and it's majority 60s, a few 58s, 157, but the majority of it was 60. And I didn't question it because I was just there for XP. But yeah, apparently a lot of 60s are trying to spawn NMs at this point.
They're trying to spawn a Provenance Watcher, and they're killing Ovnis or doing bunnies. That seems to be my biggest thing. So
the group I was in was trying to spawn Daphne.
Daphne's 55, so like a 60 can technically solo those mobs pretty reasonably to spawn them. Right. It's a little long, but it's doable. I don't know. For me, the 56 to 59 is the dead zone.
It's annoying because of the fucking draw-in. I swear that shit got
One other thing about Daphne in particular, though, is that the mobs that you use to spawn it can be reflect farmed. You need 1 tank, 1 healer, and 6 reflectors. And it's really quick to level up that way at that level threshold using that one that spawns a good NM. So I think that one in particular is kind of an anomaly, but yes, 56, 59 feels really empty. I don't think I've ever seen them.
I feel like it's our fault because literally every instance, like all the 60s are in Arsenal. We're like, I don't need that right now. I'm doing Arsenal.
Yeah. Our experience is probably very different to a lot of people who are still leveling as well.
Yes, absolutely. I will say that Provenance Watcher bugged until today. And again, also, I don't feel like calling this one a Zuzu, Sly. I don't want to call it Moist Zuzu. It's just a dragon. It's not like a humanoid person thing.
I keep saying there's only one, too.
No, there's 3.
No, there's 1.
And if you want the humanoid Zuzu here, it's going to Absolute Zuzu. And he's not even a last boss, so he doesn't count.
You said it was bug fixed today. Did you see how they fixed it?
No.
They just shrunk
First
him.
of all.
He's
they just made him tinier?
They just made him smaller. Well, they did. They halved his size pretty much, and now he doesn't collide with things the way that he did before.
First of all, you have to kind of explain this because maybe I didn't see the bug or notice a bug when I did Watcher, but what was the bug exactly?
He would go untargetable if someone was on the bridge. Someone tried to leave the area while they were fighting him, pretty much. Yeah, and then he would go untargetable, unkillable. You can't fix it. You have to just let it despawn and sorry, goodbye.
Wow.
So you know what? I was almost more concerned with maybe not people being on the bridge, because apparently it's happened with people who aren't on the bridge too. I don't know what the validity of that claim is. But I wonder if it was the position of where he actually starts his dive bombs from that caused any issues. Him colliding with the bridge, for example, his model or something.
I did notice one other thing with the dive bombs particularly. They used to spawn in facing the direction. Now they spawn facing away and turn around. So they've probably done something there.
That was before yesterday too. I saw that in my first few kills.
Okay.
Yeah. It was really weird. I don't know why they did it that way, but it was yeah, I definitely noticed that yesterday when I was clearing a few extra ones.
I must not have seen that then.
But yeah, the NMs here they're not. I think Pago's probably the most threatening NMs. I think it might have just been shock factor after Onimos being such a rollover after he had 5 Magicite, but I think those NMs so far are the most threatening. Maybe I just have nightmares of Igloo. Just being pushed. Ah!
I feel like it's not that the NMs have gotten easier. They're probably difficulty-wise the same as the Pagos ones, but we just have logo sections now.
That's true.
And it's as if they've been tuned without those in mind. And we're just way stronger.
Logos is a lot of fun. Oh, Sfia is a big fan of Logos. He's gonna talk about that when we start talking about the Arsenal, because I've been following his Twitter. I've been following your Twitter and everything you have to say about a couple specific ones that you seem to be a big fan of. Yeah. Other than that, I think the reward structure outside's a little better here than Pyros, in terms of stuff that's in the bunny chests, and just kind of the general flow of the zone, having actual upgradable armor, upgradable weapon. I feel like while it is a victory lap, it's also more satisfying than Pyros personally to progress through. I don't know any particular reason for the actual zone to feel that way, but it does to me. It's more glam, maybe. That's the big reason. It's a lot more glam here. I don't know if you guys share that opinion in regards to the actual progression through Hydatos.
I mean, what glam have you got?
I don't have the Absolute Spear or the Penthesilia Spear. I have the Shantoto Staff. Technically not glam, but I'm going to count it as that for the long term. Vermilion Cloak and Kirin Osode. I have both of them at this point since I have enough Cryptic Seals after everything. And then I've all the... I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to level in the Hydatos armor, because I have a feeling the 10 item level defense is going to be horrible for dungeons in particular from 71 to 80. I know I remember Bardam's Medal, and I don't want people being in full 390 when we get to the 75 dungeon, so I'm not going to do it. And then the weapons. I mean, it's been very kind of laid back to go through, a little bit more so than Pyros. And the mount.
Even the relic steps themselves were
identical.
Pretty damn quick.
Yeah.
It felt a lot faster because are you comparing post nerf?
No, I'm thinking pre-nerf, but I think one thing that kind of makes this one go faster is Avni, because it's guaranteed.
That's actually a really big factor, because if you've got people either not going into the Arsenal or going in and leaving, that's a leveled 60 NM every 30 minutes.
Yep. When most of them are 2 hours. The normal respawn time's 2 hours. You get 4 of him in the time it takes for one other NM to respawn, assuming no one goes in. So he's a really big factor in regards to this. And there's also still, once more people are closer to 60 but aren't going into Arsenal, there's of course the hope that the 56 to 59 NMs will start showing up a little bit more, which will also be a ton more crystals. And Sivo, who's the other level 60 that I don't think I've ever seen as well.
There's another level 60?
Yeah, there's Sivo, or Kevo, I don't know if it is. Cevo. What's his name? Provenance Watcher and Avni. And then technically what's her face? Trisitia? That's the name of the shark. Well, we'll talk about it, Sly. Trisitia, if you haven't been in runs with people in Arsenal, you wouldn't have seen Trisitia. Trisitia is our apology to people for no Avnis for 2 hours. Pretty much. I don't know how else to put it when it comes to Trisitia. Or Trizit, I don't care. It's a shark. It's Jailer of Hope, I think, in 11. Shark? I think Hope was Shark. Pretty sure it was. But yeah, I don't think there's too much else to talk about in regards to Hydatos itself. I think... is there, Sly?
No. Well, one last question. Was there anything that, you know, surprised you in any kind of way pleasantly, or, you know, kind of shocked you when it happened? Like going like in the Arsenal or out of Arsenal? Well,
what shocks me is apparently it's a Medusa enemy, Sivo, so that's our Zuzu. Sivo's our actual Zuzu. So it's a humanoid. So Providence Watcher is the proper Zuzu, because he's the one who's for the relic quest, but yeah, Hydatos Delphines spawns that one.
Delphines, they're 64, I thought. So that would make it the...
Oh, are they 64? I thought they were 65.
So.
Maybe Sivo is 59. I just misread it. I just go to the tracker real quick and find out. Let's see. New Hydatos tracker. Oh, yeah, Sivo is 59. Would you look at that? Yeah, because Avni's not even listed on here, because what's the point? Yeah. So Sito, by the way, not Sivo, Sito. Yeah. Okay, well, that's actually going to make that even easier, because that means that be almost 9 E levels over it when we get to talking about elemental bonus stuff a little bit later. Sfia's already thinking about it. He's just like, I can't wait. Just let me loose.
Yeah.
Just let me loose. It's been a long week for us, Sly. We got a lot of emotions to get out already coming up.
Yeah.
You were saying surprises in terms of just the leveling process throughout.
Yeah, anything
Hydatos.
you saw, anything that happened that was like a pleasant surprise, or anything.
Sprite Island was number one right there. I mean, that's probably it though, in terms of, what do you got?
I have one, but it's a bit of a spoiler. I'm not going to say anything story specific, but for the first time in Final Fantasy XIV, as much as I think the relevance of it is very, very limited compared to what it could have been, you are given a permanent story choice in regards to how you want to progress the story. So I
feel like you are, but I know what you're talking about, and I won't, go into too many details. But I feel like it's the illusion of choice. It
is still an illusion, and I will talk about that when we eventually do we talk spoilers on it, because we're not talking about it yet. I already know what the final ending looks like for both of them, and it is very much the way it turns out. It very much doesn't matter what you pick. They tell you it matters. They tell you it's super important. It changes dialogue. It changes what happens back in the unending journey. But it very much is not an actual like, hey, this will drastically change everything. Sfia, you probably just skipped through all those cutscenes to get in.
Oh yeah. Everything. I actually left the cutscenes running because I was streaming it, obviously, and people were like, "Don't skip." But I didn't watch it. I was doing other stuff. But that actually makes me think. You know how a lot of people seem to have the idea that Eureka is just a giant testing grounds, and a lot of things that they put in there, the things that are well received get spliced and put into the main game.
I see where you're going.
Do you think if that's well received, it'll be a feature going forward?
I think this iteration won't be that well received because when you actually see what the payoff of each choice is, and we'll talk about that because there's a payoff. There's something else they did here that I very much didn't expect, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the Arsenal. It doesn't pay off enough for what they did, and I think it's because they were probably too scared to make it pay off too much when you make the decision. But it was, I think it is. I think that this public dungeon is like that. I think the Logos actions are like that. I think the story choice is like that. And I'm even going back to, what was it called? The Rising from last year, where they had the fate system that they had in there, the chaining fate system. We kind of have that now, but like a more proper fate chain to like guide people through things. I have a feeling we've seen actually a lot of testing ground related stuff in the past few months. We kind of have been ignoring it. And I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot of that show up again in 5.0. And I hope we do, because it's good. People say they do the same stuff all the time. If they can do different things within the same stuff, it doesn't seem as much like they're always doing the same thing over and over again. At least that's how I feel.
Do you feel, maybe not in 5.0, because I feel like it's too soon, but do you feel like in future expansions we will have choices that actually carry meaning and weight?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. I think no matter what, when you make the choice, the payoff at the end will always be somewhat similar, regardless of what you pick. It'll be like Mass Effect 3's endings, where everyone thought it was going to matter and it like didn't mean fuck all.
Then they had to patch it.
And then they had to patch
Then they had to patch it, and yeah.
It'll be like OG Mass Effect 3 endings where they tell you it matters a lot, but then it does kind of, but it really doesn't at the same time because the payoff is so similar. I suppose.
I can't see anything like major changing outside of things like dialogue from any type of story decision that you're given.
Yeah.
But they may give us more of those now that have those slight variations if people like it.
We've always had slight variations, at least if you've done certain quests beforehand. Like, when you beat Coil, Alice would say something different. And I've actually kind of liked that approach the most. Acknowledging that you've done other shit with characters and they're not just acting like they've seen you for the first time is a big thing for me when I'm progressing through the story. And Sly, you as a Dragoon, I mean, the first time they ever did that was Estinian, where he goes, "Don't worry, I'm not here to fight you this time. Just calm down a little bit." And that's an important payoff. And especially with New Game Plus, I feel that this is a big thing to make people think about New Game Plus.
So I don't feel like the payoff. I'm sorry, go ahead.
The New Game Plus lets you play through, or is it?
It basically resets the story through
the flag.
And then you go through it again.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's for. Then you're right. It's really cool. So what are you saying, Sly?
I just don't feel like the payoff is big enough. Even with New Game Plus, I understand that, like people have been asking for a long time, hey, can we go back and do this iconic quest because it was really fun. The only thing I would probably want to do is the Magnai Sadu fight from a few patches ago, but yeah.
You just watch that cutscene though, Sly. You don't have to replay it.
But it was fun. Like it was fun. In my opinion. It was fun. But like I can't really speak or say because I have not touched WoW. I see a lot of it, but I don't know the intricacies of it. Are there any weighty choices in there besides alliances?
I think the choosing whether you're alliance or horde is the most weighted decision and the way things play out. But they still pay off the same in the end. Like you just see your perspective of it. It doesn't like drastically change everything in WoW. Okay. So, but I think with New Game Plus, I mean, they like to introduce new technology and then see what they can do with the new technology. I mean, we've seen Eureka's a product of Diadem and them trying to learn through Diadem. Like as much as we say, oh no, Eureka's not Diadem, it is. It literally is the same idea of content. And it feels like they keep trying to get it right. When they get it wrong, very few times you just say, okay, that's it, put it aside. Lords of Verminion is the only time I feel like they've actually done that.
Somebody to this day,
that challenge log though.
Somebody's job to this day is updating Lords of Verminion every time a new minion comes out.
They just copy paste old effects. Fuck that. No, they're just copy pasting old effects.
That is on someone's job. That's what they've got to do. Lords of Verminion balancing.
The MGP and the challenge log, that's why.
Yeah, well, I can kill a Goobu like 20 different ways, and I only have to do it 5 times a week. So I don't think they're that worried about their balancing for Lords of Verminion. But yeah, no, I think with New Game Plus, they're going to maybe try to stretch the system, because here's the thing. You add this feature, and right now you're only saying, oh, if you want to go back and do it again. But why would I? What if I had to make choices at points in the story, and there's cutscenes I could have only seen if I had gone back through that? We're getting of all things to have New Game Plus for, we have a fucking Nier 24-man coming out. And Nier is pretty fucking infamous for multiple choice. So I'm just...
Yeah, I didn't put that one together, but that's spot on, actually.
I'm just saying, if there was a 24-man raid to have New Game Plus for, the fucking Nier raid would be pretty high on my list of places to use it. I don't know. That's just me, because I think that we're going to have like 5 endings for that fucking thing.
So beyond New Game Plus, though, what else do you think was tested in Hydatos specifically?
Public Dungeon. Big thing. The idea of high stakes, lower difficulty, but higher stakes content.
So just the... Carry on.
Go ahead.
All right. So do you think it's just the tuning, effectively, of what Public Dungeon is that was being tested, or do you think it's the actual way that it functions with, an instance inside an instance almost? Is that what they were going for with the testing, or all of those things at once?
I think all those things at once. I think it was a huge technical test, and they just had to throw some rewards in there. Like, this is the first time I've looked at Eureka and gone, okay, this is an idea they actually do want to use elsewhere. Because logograms, they're only ever going to pop up in, like, Palace of the Dead or, like, exploration-style content. They're never going to throw that in the rest of the game. Because they've always been this super anal about balance. And, like, those aren't. Those are so far from balance. Magicites, no. Elemental, like, alignments. The idea of it, maybe, because Blue Mage also does use elemental alignments. They maybe needed to get that right for Blue Mage as well. But I think this is the first, like, proper idea of something that's repeatable And now they need to see what they need to do to improve it, because they're going to get feedback from this. You know, we've all been very vocal on social media. People who haven't been able to get in, people who have been outside while we're inside. Everyone's been very vocal about feedback in regards to that. And there's no doubt that all three communities, NA, EU, and JP, are talking about it everywhere right now. And I think they're going to take a lot of information in about that.
In regards to, I guess, difficulty in what you're saying, do you think, in regards to this being a test, the bar was set a little bit low, or
I think the bar was set pretty high?
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Personally, I don't know if you feel the same, Sfia, after the last week.
I think it was set high, but not for the reasons you probably think, Sly.
Okay.
The things that were tested, like as a player, were very low. But in terms of the things that you need for management, wrangling an instance full of pugs to do the right thing, and expecting people to do the right thing, that's where it gets really, really difficult. The difficulty isn't necessarily in the challenge of the content. It's in the scale of things and the time sink and the punishment, not how difficult the content itself is.
Perhaps he's saying people.
Oh, yeah. People debuff is super real in there. More real than it has ever been. And there's even a line of dialogue that you're given at one point that implies that the people from the actual NPCs, that implies that the people debuff is super strong. But yeah, I guess with that, we are already starting to get into talking a little bit about Baldesion. That's going to definitely take up the rest of the show. So I'm going to thank the Patreon sponsors now, so that way we can just go ham on the Baldesion Arsenal. Earlier in the show, we thanked one of our sponsors, SteelSeries. One of our other sponsors are those of you who actually watch the show yourselves. We have a Patreon that has been sponsoring us through #demonetize, which, oddly enough, is really kicked up in the last week. Like, it's been kind of quiet for, like, the last few months. And then last week, I got flagged because when I got the Ozma mount, I made a video, and in the description, I literally just put the word dope. But dope triggered the thing. I was just saying, like, you know, this mount is dope, and I had to change it. And as soon as I changed it, it was gone. I had male Vieira. The system thought it was Viagra. So, so I got flagged for everything that said Vieira in it. That one was interesting. So yeah, it's been a little interesting the last week. So those of you who have been supporting through #demonetize, it has mattered more in the last week than I maybe would have otherwise intended, or I guess since the European Fan Fest, really. So I have a list of people. First, I accidentally closed it when I went to start the show, and I just got it back up right now. We gotta thank our patrons of light first. We have Khuja Cross on Jenova and Kurenai Oni. Now, it has been a very busy week for me, as many of you no doubt know. So I have the same images from last week, so I'm just going to use those. I don't think I've been given new images, actually. So these are our patrons of light. We have Khuja Cross, who takes very good pictures all the time, and now they're like ultra wide. I don't know what is this resolution. Anyone like that like has the cutoffs at the top? I think I was watching Haru or one of the other JP streams earlier, and they had a similar view, and I was just like, huh, what is? Oh, it's 1440. There you go. That's a 1440p screenshot right there. I should know that I have a 1440p monitor, but I play on 1080. Truth be told, yeah, I play 1080p windowed. Sfia, don't judge me.
I don't understand.
I don't need it to be any bigger. That's what she said. I don't need it to be any bigger. I like it the way it is. It's perfect for me. I'm gonna stop now. So that's Khuja Cross from don't give me the nods.
It's fine. It's fine.
That's Khuja Cross, and then this is Kurenai. Again, same image as last week. Discount Golden Bahamut from turn 13. Where the first time we really saw him, but we really didn't care back then. Mattered a lot more 4 years later. Oh, Sly, don't make creepy emotes in the chat. Don't do that. Sly, I'm just trying to shout out the Patreon sponsors. Why you gotta, oh, now everyone's creeping and looting, and I'm gonna thank the sponsors now, Sly. And I already know what's going to happen with that. So thank you to our patrons of light, as we say every week. Thank you for the screenshots. Thank you for the awesome support. We also have our other sponsors. We have other tiers that we shout out here on Stay the Realm. We have our standard Stay the Realm sponsors, and that of Emma, Nyrik Vizsla, the Fist of Vulgar, Krista Uzuki, Crazy Meter from Midgard, Raijin Ventinus from Cactar, Carol, Ray, Senchi, Shadowlink on Tonberry, Dom, Asuka Wake from Jenova, Lemillionella, Midgard Summer, Serren and the Fennel Family, Johnny Yatsuka, Kifka and the Great Eagles on Exodus, Aoshi from Kujata, Skia Symphonia from Ragnarok, Rylanator Westaus The Purple Warrior, Eadric, Redsteele on Exodus, Lexxie Valentine, Mantaru the Rivivus FC from Zodiark, Sour Cream and Chives from Jenova, Rynoet Chikara, Goetia, Valefar of Siren, FFXIV FC on Goblin, and Serren from Zodiark. We then have our elite Stay of the Realm sponsors. We have Vapa Tiama of Diablos. We have Shadow Ari of Brynhilder, Zeravire of Coral, Alchemy, Shinka, Casual Heroes FC on Midgard Armor, Tatachitaka on Hyperion, Kano Uzuki from Jenova, Starla on Coral, Sothal, Sarah Frost from Behemoth, Holy Tabasco, Crass015, Serenity FC on Ultros, Kat Kazuma, Ignis Farragon from Excalibur, Valestra, Famfrit, Not Quarters from Excalibur, Krovus Moonscar, Private Mikey, Donnie Kirasami, Rudy Rudiger, Killer Hackman Wall Jr., and Kiltastic Jones. All right, we did it.
No pogs.
There's some Pog equivalents in there. And it's funny, it's weird seeing Layla bring up Rap God, because him and Fold were supposed to write a rap for me, like, what, 6 months ago? Like, a diss rap for me, like, 6 months ago, and they never did it.
It's coming. It's coming.
Maybe when we finally have Fold on the show, he can be the one to do it. It was supposed to be Layla, but that's nothing but disappointment, unfortunately. So thank you to our Patreon sponsors. You guys have been awesome for combating #demonetized.
Thank you so much.
And now the real fun begins.
The fun. So, the Arsenal.
The Bald Arse.
The Bald Arse. God damn it.
It works.
It does.
Does it?
It's 4-letter shorthand for the first. It's Baldesion Arsenal, the Bald Arse. Makes perfect sense. Listen, Sly, you haven't even mentioned the name of the show yet, which is a way worse pun than calling that the Bald Arse. You were gonna mute Fold. Point well taken. There you go, Sly. I'm assuming you just read the title because you're giving me a look as if you read the title.
You didn't even tell me this.
No, Ninzard recommended it, and I just said, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, you usually, like, whenever you're typing out the title, you usually say the title as you're typing it out. I didn't hear anything.
I didn't tell you.
It's good. It's clever.
Yeah, Ninzard came up with that. So shout out to Ninzard, who came to me with that when we were pulling Ozma earlier. And I was like, that's a great idea. I appreciate that. Baldesion Arsenal, man. I've got a million things to say.
Start from the beginning. Here's your words.
All right, how about this? Let's start with our overall impressions, and we'll go into the smaller parts, the finer details, the flaws, the pros, the cons, everything. So, Sfia, you are our guest. You did way more DPS than everyone else on our clear because Black Mage is busted, and you will speak first.
All right. Overall impression of Baldesion Arsenal is that it was a new combat experience they put in the game which actually worked, which is the first thing that I've been able to, like, say that about in a very long time. It's a combination of a lot of things that a lot of different people have asked for in terms of, you've got new gearing options, you've got new combat options, you've got a different sort of punishment, different tuning of bosses, you've got more than 24 at one time. It's so many things that may not have worked individually, but just work really well in the way that they do. Obviously, there are little things that I'd like them to change about the way that it works to make that a little easier, but overall, it is a really, really cool experience. And doing it blind was amazing.
Yeah, I echo pretty much all of those sentiments. Especially the ability to, I guess, customize your gameplay was kind of one of the biggest things that came out of that. Figuring out the right Logos actions to take, having options for prog, then having options for kills. It's something that generally doesn't work in the rest of the game. There's too much variance in it when you're trying to design really tight encounters. So these encounters, they're easier. Like, they're not super tight, dancey fights like an Ultimate would be, for example. But with that kind of lower difficulty and a higher threshold for punishment, there's a little bit more room to customize your gameplay. in a way that no matter what, you still have to know how to play Final Fantasy XIV first and foremost. These things just enhance those aspects to meet your needs for the various bosses. And you're very limited in the number of changes that those are actually allowed to make once you've actually begun. Again, sticking these things in this limited time, limited scope dungeon, again, like Sfia said, they just work when they're together, but they really don't feel like they work outside of that, at least not to the intended degree. So that's overall thoughts, Sly. And I'm assuming you're 60, but you probably haven't been in any instances. I think there's only like 1 or 2 major groups on Primal that are working on Baldesion, and most pugs kind of just stay away from it outside of occasional things, which we'll talk about when we talk about the flaws.
I mean, I'm eventually going in. Don't threaten me with a good time. You know, I'll probably de-level, but yeah.
And then you just go to the sprites.
Yep.
Yeah, just got a sprite.
It's so simple. Oh, man. I actually had a run earlier where we were just doing fragments, and we went to the point where we have to spawn a boss, and I didn't aggro. I went to suicide into a room to spawn the boss, and I didn't aggro anything. I just returned. And just left the dungeon. That was very lucky. Meanwhile, another guy ran into a trap on purpose to kill himself faster, and he didn't aggro either. So there's a very large variance of play in there. First thing we need to talk about is getting in, and this might be the longest topic about the whole damn thing, because we're talking a lot of good stuff, but getting in there is not one of the things we're going to say good stuff about. So, Sly, how familiar are you with the process of getting into the Baldesion Arsenal?
I know once Obdi hits and to kill, you take the random teleports that are scattered throughout Hydatos to get in. I don't know too much after that. I've just gotten to 60 not too long ago, and I'm not sure I want to go in just yet.
So you don't know, you know enough about it. You know at least that you need to kill Avni and you need to take a portal.
Yes.
Okay, Sfia. So you were in there way before me. You guys had already been in by the time. I was only like 58, 59 by the time you guys went in for the first time. So you have the earliest experience with it. My experience comes where there's a bit more hardship. So
yes,
you can describe how you feel about the process. I'll describe it, and then we'll provide some constructive feedback.
Okay, what day is it? Saturday.
Yeah.
Here it is, at least. That means 3 days ago, 4 days ago, we got to level 60. You kill Ovni, you take your portal, you go in. A day later, you kill Ovni. Oh shit, there's people at all these portals. I need to go to find another one, because only one person can get in each portal.
Excuse me?
Only one person can get in each portal, and 48 of them spawn. Then you get to the next day, and oh shit, there's more 60s now. I got to go to the far corner of the map to find a portal. And then you get to yesterday, today, and you're competing with almost the entire instance for a portal. So you have to be on your toes, to say the least.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah. The way that it works is a blue portal spawns after Ovni dies. To go into that portal, you need a stabilizer. A blue portal you can't go into. You also need to have killed Ovni and gotten gold in the Fate to get a buff that lets you go through a portal. And be 60. All of those conditions have to be met. But then you need a stabilizer to go through a blue portal. And stabilizers aren't easy to come by. You need mats from things that very rarely spawn, or you need to have done a metric fuck ton of grinding and all of the other Eureka installments. If you don't have a stabilizer, you wait 5 minutes and then your portal turns red and anyone can go through it that's level 60 and met those conditions. So that means camping by a portal on the biggest mount you've got, hoping it scares people away and they don't steal your portal.
Elthur's worked really well for that. He just hides the portal. I'm just like, there's nothing to see here, anybody. Don't look. Hey, what's that over there? You should go see that.
Yeah, so obviously a few days ago, it was really, really easy when you had less 60s running around the zones to just get a portal, because there weren't even enough people that were 60 to take each of the portals there. Everyone could get in. But slowly over time, that became really competitive. So you had to be super organized about who was going where to which portal, disengage from Ovni early sometimes even resetting him, just to make sure that you got a portal. It was a not fun experience, I'll tell you that much. And then when you've got 48 people, because there's 48 portals at the start and then 8 more people can come in later. Actually, I can go back a little bit, even before Ovni. You've got to
get 48 people together.
You got to get 56 people together, right? You got to find 56 people willing to put in a few hours for one attempt. And then you've got to get them all into the same instance. And you can't queue as an alliance. You've got to queue as individual parties. And so you're sitting there with 6-7 team leaders in a voice chat saying, I'm in. And one person doesn't get in, so you'll queue back out and do it again. And then you do the Ovni stuff, the shenanigans, you get your portal. Finally, everyone's in. You got lucky. You shouted to the zone, we're trying to kill Ozma. Let the portals for us. Sometimes they're nice.
How in the blue fuck do you organize that shit?
Sorry, blue's limited, Sly. We can't use that one here.
How do you organize that? You have people who are just very good at people wrangling, I guess. Big props to Perez, President Replay. That guy put in loads of work getting people there. Wow. Yeah. He was a logistical just genius in terms of getting this all put together. An enormous Discord, a very strong core group of players who we knew would be there every single day so that we didn't have to chop and change things as much as possible. And then just a lot of hard work and talking to people and who's not out of 8, who needs what role. It's a chore. It's an absolute chore.
Yeah, you say roll.
Yeah.
I've seen Twitters. Seen mainly Fold. And I've heard Fold talk and seen a few people say things.
Sly, let me just say this. Sfia is the reason Fold's saying it.
Okay. But Fold was the ninja in there.
Yeah, the lone melee. Wonder why he's the lone melee.
Fucking melee, yeah.
I'm gonna paint a picture for you, right? You know how in this game, in all sorts of content, everyone always thinks about what's the most optimal comp to run. You know, and you go
fucking meta, yeah.
Right? You go Dark Knight, Paladin Warrior, Astro Scholar, Dragoon, and then X DPS of choice depending on the encounter. In this dungeon, you go 6 tanks for 6 parties. All of them are probably going to be warriors. You go 2 healers in each party, Skull and Astro. You go 1 single ninja, 1 summoner, and 40 black mages.
Yeah, that's pretty optimal.
Yep.
I'm not doing the Arsenal. Thanks. All right.
Hey, you never know. Bards and Machinists can be pretty good with some certain actions. So Dragoons help that. And you can give them litany and tethers.
Right.
So, in no way is that saying that you can't clear it with other stuff, obviously. But there is a very clear discrepancy.
You bring a single machinist. You forgot the single machinist.
Oh, the single machinist. You're right. I forgot something in there. There is a very clear distinction between Black Mage and everything else in this content. Literally everything else. They are just broken beyond belief because of logograms. There's a neat little combination, one of them which gives you 35% more damage and reduces your MP cost, which changes your base rotation on Black Mage to just give you another fire for every Astral Fire. So even without the next big thing, you've already increased your damage significantly, like 35% off the bat, and then another fire for every rotation is not insignificant. Then you got this one button, which you can do every 90 seconds, which doubles your damage for double the MP cost. And you think on other jobs, like, oh, that's really bad, they'll go or it only works on spells, so it doesn't work on Festers, it doesn't work on Tri-Disaster, it doesn't work on a Red Mage's melee combo, but it works on everything for a Black Mage. So you combine those two abilities together, you've got a better rotation, doing 270% more damage because of the stacking of 35% and 100%. And it's just obscene. It does way too much.
Chat and everyone watching and listening right now, I got the receipts. I'm looking at Twitter right now. I'm gonna take it back to a retweet Sfia had from October, which basically mirrors and says everything that Sfia is saying right now. While you were watching hentai, I was studying the Black Mage. While you were yelling at your mom to make pizza rolls, I was studying the Black Mage. While you were trying to find a girlfriend online on online forums, I was studying the Black Mage. Now that Black Mage is top tier, you have the audacity to ask me for help.
How do you feel about that image being related to this moment, Sfia?
It is incredibly vindicating. I've gotten shit for 2 expansions for my job. I won't take it anymore, all right?
That image is on the screen right now for anyone who is curious about what we were referring to, the retweet from way back when. I might as well just open Folt's Twitter because I would expect to see this on his.
You really should.
No, I'm gonna get banned if I open his. That's a whole different problem that we don't need right now. Yeah, Black Mage really is. Let's just say I'm glad to be on healer, because then I don't have to even think about that. I'm just like, yep, he's doing work. I don't keep doing it. I'll heal you.
Now, mind you, in your video, like every so often, Layla's fine. Layla's fine. Layla's fine.
Yeah, Layla's fine.
Layla's fine. Was
no,
he really
stack.
fine?
Yeah, he was fine. He died the very first time I went in, and it was because he went from 52k to 0 instantly. I think he got hit by an AoE. I don't know how else he went from 52 to 0 on Vikings.
He got double autoed by all 3 of them at the exact same time. You know how sometimes bosses, when you pull them, will auto twice?
No, this was like 20 seconds into the pull. Oh, unless they do it after they do the AoE. Yeah, I had been healing him for like a good 20 seconds. This was when we went in with 20 people. He died and didn't proc Remembrance, so we just kept going without him on the first pull. Yeah. That was fun times. Yeah, I don't know what killed him there. But, yeah, no, Layla was fine after that. I never let Layla even come close to dying. I had 60 to 70% auto heal on her fucking clear. That's all I'm taking 0 fucking chances on this entire piece of content forever at this point. Yes, he was fine, Sly. There are other people who are far less fine.
I can tell. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, and honestly, we're kind of just skimming over details a little bit as we kind of jump to different points, because we were talking about, getting the people coordinated, getting the entry portals. We encountered something today, and I think we encountered it once the day before, on the one where we got Ozma to 33%, where so what most often what we're doing is we're going into instances and we are telling people, hey, we're doing this, please leave the portals for the people who are going in. And then, hey, there will be 8 more later. Cool. That makes sense. You're technically taking over the zone. You're trying to dictate everyone else's gameplay, which is kind of rough to do when the portals are technically open to everybody. But you're doing it for the best chance at clearing, pretty much, because you've already organized everything. You've already done all that. You're not trying to go through that again. And what we encountered yesterday and today, at least once in both cases, although I think the first time it wasn't malicious, it was just the person didn't understand what they had gotten themselves into. We had an individual deliberately take a portal and leave so that one of our people could not come in. Because we were asking for people to not take portals, so they did it on purpose to then deny us at least one portal.
Yeah. But if you haven't seen one person get reported by 56 at the same time, now you have.
Yeah. And then even then, like, the shots usually say, like, if you come in, you will die. you will de-level, and it's not going to be a good time for you. It's not going to be a good time for us. And yeah, it was quite malicious. So luckily we have new terms of service. So.
And that's one thing I kind of wanted to touch on in this episode too, because that's a little bit of news. We don't have to touch on it too much. We don't have to go dive into deep detail about it. Quick sidebar. What do you think?
I think it was made for Eureka for this fucking public dungeon. They were like, all right, this is going to cause some problems. I think now's the time, guys. All it's really enforcing is don't be a dick, but now they're really enforcing it. Like, that's kind of just like, a lot of people were like afraid of getting banned for like shit like, oh, hey, did you know that when you play Black Mage, like a level 36 Black Mage is spamming Fire 3, and you're like, hey, just so you know, you generally only spam Fire 1 at this level and then use Blizzard 3 to swap back. And no, you're not going to get banned for telling him to use Blizzard 3. You're also not going to be banned for telling him not to spam Ice Spells. Now if you go, hey, you fucking piece of shit garbage human being, Ice Mage is fucking stupid. It's not. You're a fucking idiot. Honestly, you'll probably get in trouble for that.
To me, it seemed like
that sounded authentic for a second.
That's how I felt on the inside once or twice.
Okay.
To me, those changes really seemed like they were things that they were already like aware of and dealing with, but they just wanted it in a much more formal, written way, so they can say, "This is why you got banned."
Yeah. Pretty much. So I think I think it's right to look at it like through a critical scope, because then if anything extreme like those people, you know, who are a little bit afraid of it do happen, you know, there is some need for clarification. Until then.
So you're not thinking any cause for concern or anything in regards?
No. I think if you're that concerned, odds are you were talking to people in a way that was questionable at one point, and you're a little concerned.
So first season of Feast, basically.
Well, Feast, they took away your words, but I like that they said their goal was, instead of inhibiting players from interacting, we now just want to punish them for being, you know, over the top aggressive. Like I'm thinking back to Original Feast. In Original Feast, if you were a newcomer and you didn't do well, there were people who would go to your server, like back when you couldn't do cross-server tells. They would make characters just to tell you were a piece of shit. I've seen it happen. I know people it's happened to.
I haven't heard that.
I've seen it. I've seen that back when Feast had words a lot. Like, it's protecting against things like that. But that should have been the goal in the first place, because I hate that Feast got rid of words. Even though, as we've discussed in PvP shows, the new communication system is definitely more fluid for actual PvP, especially the Feast. But I still think that should have been the goal in the first place, you know?
Okay.
So this is just covering those bounds. And I think it was Toshio himself, the FoxCon, as you guys know him, who said those things about what their actual goal was with the new terms of service stuff. But honestly, as much as it's going to get memed on forever, let's be honest, no matter how serious or not serious, it's going to get memed on, especially when it comes to Hydatos in the public dungeon. It's going to be a constant meme in there, because it is so easy to grief in there. And it's also a place that's highly likely to have people who fuck up and die and kill people, and for other people to go off on them. Like, hardcore go off on them. When you're just in full NA pugs. Full NA pugs is a dangerous environment, man. There's some shit that gets said in full NA pugs. It's real dangerous. Oh, man. But yeah, I mean, that's just the whole griefing thing, which is how we got to this kind of point.
Right.
That's where I'm only afraid that's going to happen more and more. As more and more people want to go in and they get into instances with people who are already pre-organized, it's just a clash of gameplay choices. That's why we normally have the party finder for everything else. The pre-mades, you know, all go in the party finder. If they're all cross server, they put a password on the channel to let you know, hey, this is separate from all the other entries. And then the pugs just join the ones that meet the goals that they want. You know, that's why it's always been that way. And there's this clash here that's just going to cause more and more issues as more and more people want to go in.
So I guess it kind of begs the question, can there be an adjustment made? Do you think we'll get an adjustment anytime soon? And if so, what could you possibly adjust about this to make it, I guess, a little more friendly, I guess you could say?
I have one way that I can think of which would make it work. And that is that when you queue for Eureka, Hydatos, you queue with a box check that says I'm going in for Arsenal. That lets you take portals.
Now, I actually see that working because,
And you have to do it in a pre-made, ideally.
Okay. I see that working because they give you the option of looking for party and Hydatos already and things like that. So, requiring that you be 60 would have to be one of those prerequisites that you are already 60 and of course. Okay. So, yeah. Yeah.
I do fear, as chat saying, everyone would just tick the box. That's what I was going to say. Some people are going to be too lazy to do it, no doubt, but I think most people would tick the box. The instance would have to have a maximum of people who have ticked that box. And then even then, that you run into the issue that unless you get a completely fresh one with all the groups in simultaneously. At which point you run into another issue, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So even that doesn't have... I think they're going to learn that barrier for entry in this specific case, it being behind Eureka, behind the fourth zone out of a piece of content that people may not even be up to, an area that generally has no rules. You've now created rules, and they're very uncontrollable to most degrees. It's that many variables. Their barrier for entry didn't work because if the stabilizers are too hard to get, people are going to try to just do what we're doing now. If they were too easy to get, you'd have the problem the opposite way where everyone would just take blue portals pretty much, and then it would be no different. Hi, can you not? I'm in the middle of a podcast. All right. And apparently in Japan, it was a similar problem. There was a point where they had to turn their streams off because people were trying to snipe into their instances to take portals. Because they're like, oh, there's a group going. If I want to get in, I need to be in the same instance as them.
So we actually had to do the same thing, but I don't think it was out of maliciousness. It was literally people wanting to be in the instance which had the NM spawn. And when me and Mike turned off streams or hid streams, we got in fine. We one-shot it. So having an instance to yourself is definitely a huge boon. Huge. And maybe that's the luck that Yoshida mentioned that you need to get through this.
Yeah, and the trust.
Yeah.
Which is definitely tough. And the chat's bringing up a very good point. It is called a public dungeon. It is not an area you can technically claim domain over. The problem being that it's so punishing that if you don't, odds are you're not making it. So I think their entry method and their designation of public dungeon, kind of defining it, is their roughest point. Yes, we could all go build stabilizers. Yes, it would take us literally 10 times longer to do anything. And I wonder if he factored that in. I wonder if he factored in because he said it would probably take a while for people to clear it. I wonder if he factored in that anyone who was trying to do it that seriously would probably go try to make stabilizers to guarantee slots. And even then, honestly, that's still not even a problem because later on you can send 8 more people in. It doesn't matter if you have stabilizers for that one. They're just open. So yeah.
My take on that is that it was actually just a tuned for 6. It was designed around 6. Ozma tells you that. And the 7th is literally just people to replace people in parties that have died already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's how Ozma puts it, but it's not necessarily how it was kind of put initially. You know?
It's not how the rest of it functions and what's best for progressing through that.
Yeah. The next thing we come to, though, is once you actually get inside. Everyone's gotten into their portals, and you're in this initial room. The first room has a Magium Elder, and it has a Logos Manipulator, so you can mess around with Logos actions one last time before you commit. There's 2 separate paths, and you need to send groups down each path because the NMs have to be killed at the same time at the end of each hallway. Big thing here is you cannot change your job once you're in there. So if someone stole the portal or a bad combination of jobs entered, even under the idea of a public dungeon, there's no flexibility in there outside of your Logos actions. At best, you don't have a tank, your DPS grabs Incense and Plate Bearer or something. Like, that's the only alternative you really have. So that's another problem.
Really an alternative?
It's not, but it's the only alternative I can think of on short notice. So that room in itself could use a little bit of work, especially if they want to support a public dungeon, because you need that flexibility to do this. Like, there's no way around it. And I don't think Logos entirely make up for it. I don't know if you feel the same way, Sfia, if you have any feelings about that entry room.
No, I think you're right. I think like there's a possibility that 42 tanks, 25 DPS, or 16 DPS, 14 DPS. I can't do math, but no healers zone in, right? Yeah. And at that point, you've just wasted however long that you've spent to get to that point, and you've wasted the entire instance. So yeah, changing jobs is number one, like very important in that entry room, because if it is for everyone, and I don't think that our experience is the way that things are going to go in the future, because obviously when you're blind progging things, you need things as consistent as possible. So getting the people that we were running within every single time was the hardest part of the chore, but that's not what everyone else is going to have to experience. When, the Mr. Happy Guide is out, everyone can see exactly what to do and can go in there and
do it
pre-made parties. Pre-made parties of 8 can go in there and probably be able to execute each boss just fine. So I think that having pre-made parties of 8 should be the prerequisite to fix that problem, because when you go in as one person, you can effectively ruin a run for everyone else. Yeah. In which case it's a complete waste of time. So yeah, job changing important, and queuing as pre-mates also important.
Yeah, I think it's okay if you have like a public version and a private version. I think that could be another alternative. Like if your goal is to do the Baldesion Arsenal in town, maybe you can talk to a guy and give him a stabilizer, and that pulls your party into the instance without needing to do all the other fancy stuff. You've brought him the requirement item. It pulls 8 people in. You do that 6-7 times, you're good. No competing, no anything else. Encourages you to still grind for the stabilizers, or have multiple people do it, so you have multiple entries at a given time. You still need to be level 60. And then if there's nobody in after a certain period of time, then all of a sudden Avni spawns and you have these unstable, and you have these stable portals all over the map, and then you have the public dungeon proper. It'd be another kind of meeting point in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that solution.
The way you both pose this makes it sound a little bit intimidating.
It's very intimidating.
Very intimidating to the general public who, like a lot of them feel that this content was made for them. People who don't really raid, don't really, have the time, and they just come into Eureka, just, try to get a, Eureka weapon, maybe Eureka armor. I was kind of saving this question for maybe the end, but I'll go ahead and pose it here. As world first racers, do you feel like this content was made kind of tailor-made for you in a way?
Nope.
I don't, but I feel it's misplaced, because you just described Eureka and then described this, and you can tell how different the tone of those two things are. They don't match.
And the reason I ask it, they don't match. But the reason I ask this question is because, in the beginning, would you ever have said in your wildest dreams and imagination that you were doing a world first race for Eureka, for the end of Eureka? At the very beginning, when this first came out, when it was Animos, and you wouldn't have thought that. No.
I'm sure there are plenty of people who right now are like, wow, that looks really cool, but I fucking no fucking way I'm doing Animos, Pagos, Pyros, Hydatos. 0 chance.
The number of people I've seen tweets, just comments about like, oh, I'm level 7 in Animos now. Awesome, I'm getting there, because they've just had to start now because they've seen the carrot that's on the very, very long stick now, right, which incentivizes them. So if we had known about this a year ago, maybe it would be different. But I feel like that was kind of a misplay on their part.
I think we did know about it, but we again, it's kind of like when Ultimate first came out. Everyone's like, oh, it'll be dead in a day. It'll be dead in 2 days. Like, the perception of what it would be was very different than what we got in the end.
Yeah. So in terms of, is it designed for world first races, though, which you asked? I think no, because it wasn't designed for us. It was actually designed for everyone, and it's going to give everyone a challenge suited to them. Because the challenge, the fights themselves are not complex. I would put the difficulty of the entire dungeon between a 24-man and an EX trial. But the issues that come with it are very punishing to people like world first racers, because you know what we're used to now. We've been babied by reduced res penalties, red mage, all these
just
things.
A whole job, just a whole fucking job, red mage.
Red mage, yeah.
All of these things that change what prog is effectively. But now they've taken that away from us and given us a completely different prog experience. And so in that case, it was really, really cool for us. I loved every bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, it's not so challenging like execution-wise that nobody else can do it. The challenges that we had are going to be very specific to us. I do think, though, that people who don't watch guides, want to do content blind, are going to fucking hate it. Because they are going to go in there, they're going to die, they're going to piss everyone else off, everyone else is going to get pissed at them, they're going to go back in, they're going to do the same thing. And it's going to be a very long and arduous and repetitive process of the same thing happening, where without that coordination, which we had of 56 people every single day, a lot of people are not going to be able to get that. So it's... carry on.
I'm sorry. It's kind of like both of your situations are like definitely different from the majority of players who are running this and experiencing it. You went in with a, kind of a stacked team. Would it be fair to say? Yeah. You went in with a stacked team. Like, you already had organization, which in content like this, organization, you really don't think about organization. I wouldn't have thought about this in Pyros, Animos, or anything until we've reached this point where you bring a challenge like this. So it's kind of understandable. But for the mass majority, they're like you said, they're trying to get in. They want to see it. So like you going in with a stack team, with coordination, again, shout out to Perez. I don't know how the fuck he did it. Jesus.
No idea.
No idea. It's going to be different from where everybody else who wants to experience it, who wants to see it, who wants the loot, essentially, because this is what they started Animus for, and people were hyped for this.
I get exactly what you're saying. It's like, so it kind of goes back to what I said before, though, where the way that we experienced it and the things that we struggled with are going to be very different to what other people are going to struggle with. Because it was blind and because of the nature of the punishment in this, that's why the progression was so hard. But we one-shot every boss, every single time. We have minimal deaths now. And that's not because we have stacked team. It's because we know everything. And now all the information is out. Virtually anyone can complete these encounters. They are, execution-wise, simple, but it does take prior knowledge going in.
Yeah,
I'd
say the only one that's like really, I think only the final boss is the only one that, because we have a direct point to compare that boss to with the Weeping City, and you can very much tell that there are places where if you did it wrong, you're just instant dead. There's no forgiving you, and that's true on all the bosses, but it's most true on the last one. So he's the one where he kind of takes the difficulty of the dungeon and accelerates it, pun intended, to another level.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And chat, I get what you're saying. Like, there's nothing attached to us but like maybe a few rewards, not anything to do with the weapon.
So actually, this is a big positive point for me with this dungeon. Is you just mentioned rewards and progression. It was really nice to have some semblance of gear progression, very minor, but a semblance of gear progression for this dungeon within Eureka itself that was only relevant inside Eureka, but was there in the first place.
Right.
I don't know how you felt about like this elemental bone. Sfia, okay, I know what the result was, so I know how you do feel about it.
So it's not necessarily about the result. It's more about the fact that, in my opinion at least, the itemization in the game is very stale. You have your choice of 2 items every patch in every slot. That's it. And you chuck the same materia in every slot. It's either crit or it's DH, right? That's virtually every job. But now we have these other options. We've got ways of progressing your gear with elemental bonus. We've got haste items. We've got all these other things that they're throwing in, and you're doing it while you're progressing the fights as well. It's really, really cool that we have something else that's different in there, and really cool that they've made a secondary stat not absolutely garbage, because they suck in this game.
Elemental
very,
bonus
very-
is pretty OP.
Yeah.
And
If you
haste
compare it
is
to
always
other
well.
games, secondary stats in Final Fantasy XIV are very minor in what they give you. Like the difference
Right.
between a perfect set and an imperfect set is going to be in the low percentages versus elemental bonus, which is just this enormous difference between being best in slot and not best in slot.
Also, it's odd, but then putting the item level maximum a bit lower actually opens up a bit more in gear progression. It kind of reminds me of Ultimate, where, you know, after there were more options available at that item level that you're stuck at, people looked at old gear with a little bit more value. You know, all of a sudden, this new dungeon that came out that's got 345 on the dot item level is really valuable to you if you're ever trying to go back and do it for the first time, or if you're trying to re-clear it for any sort of purpose, new static, whatever. This was kind of the same. With the item level 300 cap, this was the first place it kind of really mattered. People were actually crafting I-290 stuff to pentameld it for a little bit better stats, since materia doesn't work when you item sync down. Some of the new items they added are item level 300 with 5 meldable slots and elemental bonus and haste, so they're very valuable in there as well. It honestly, adding sort of an item level cap instead of just, hey, going to the next item level for the new content did add a bit more diversity than maybe initially intended. Or 290, was it 290, 300, whatever the item level was. They were making lower item level accessories and pentamelding them. I was watching it in Kurenai.
Would you say this is our first good implementation of sideways gear progression?
It is, and it's specific to one. Of course, I don't know if it's a pro or a con yet. If it's specific to just Eureka, I don't know if that's a pro or a con, but it exists. Is all I know, and it was good. And again, I think because of the capped item level and the content being at the level it's at, it added value to that progression, I suppose. So if this was I-400, I wouldn't have given two shits. I would have grabbed my elemental armor and just said, fuck it, pentameld it, done. Would have been the same as every other patch, pretty much. I don't know.
Yep.
Maybe that's just me. But yeah, I definitely wanted to shout that out. And I think they were very tame with Eureka effects. I think they could have gone way more off the wall than haste and the elemental bonus. And I think they should, going forward. I think they should feel free to just fuck it, go nuts. Like, if you're going to do these off the wall types of content, just go ham. You did it in Palace, you did it in Heaven on High, you did it here. Continue to do it. Because when you add modes where you just break everything, that's when it's the most fun. Or if you're looking for a really tight encounter like Ultimate, that's there too, you know?
You say going forward, do the both of you want to see content like this again?
Yes, just done better. And we already know they're working on more exploration content. They've already outright stated it.
Yes, I would not like it gated behind 2 years of grindy content that isn't dungeons. But yes, absolutely more of what we got in the end. More of the carrot, less of the stick.
If they did a public dungeon with a bunch of different, like, if it wasn't just one at the very end, and there were like ones as you went through, and they had more Eureka effects, I think that's like the best case scenario. It's also the least likely scenario. But even within Eureka proper, I think Eureka's more fun if they have this, again, it's this microcosm of a different game, pretty much. And people always say, why don't they do things mad different? Well, it's because a lot of the times they honestly just don't do it to our standards. You know, it's not necessarily it's not the thing we wanted. It's just not necessarily done with the best intent. And that's still true here. But it's gotten better as time has gone on. So I think they can continue to take those things and improve on them. Then we are looking at something that starts very niche and starts to expand outward, that more people might be interested in it.
Do you think they should keep the public aspect of the dungeon, meaning how it is right now, where it's kind of closed off, but you kind of bring the community together, bring individuals like yourself together and work towards that goal? Or do you think they should put things in place to kind of alleviate the whole publicness out of the dungeon and make it easier for you to group together and not feel like you're excluding the public?
Sfia, I you want to take that first? I think I know what I want to say, but you want to take that first?
It's tough. I'm of two minds about it. In one hand, it's really rewarding, and when we killed it, it was a really good feeling seeing an entire instance and multiple people queuing in to help us out. But at the same time, that is a very lucky thing to have happened. I like the intent. I don't like the execution. I think there needs to be more power to the individual player in terms of getting what they want out of the instance. Because right now you have so much out of your control, and that feels really bad when you're committing so much time to something.
Big thing for me, as you're going through the dungeon at one point, you actually straight up need the people on the outside. You are powerless from the inside as to whether or not your progression continues. You have to spawn a boss where Avni normally is killed, called Trisitia or something like that, or Trisitia, whatever, it's a shark. And you have 15 minutes to kill it. It is a monstrously powerful boss by regards compared to everything else in the zone. You need Dispel, you need Faint to make it die faster. And if you miss a single Dispel, you don't get rid of Shock Spikes, you don't get rid of Mighty Strikes. Odds are, and anyone who's under 60 is probably just outright dead to one ability. It's the only boss out there that kind of asks that much. And you get 10 crystals. And 8 more people can join. And that's it. They should be getting rewards from like stuff that's on the inside. Avni should be the same. Anything that is involved with the dungeon should in some way be helping you progress in the dungeon, even if you're staying outside. Whether it's just Eureka fragments that start getting elemental bonus as a stat, or chances at the other loot that's available from like certain points inside, or like its own loot table even outright. So being support, you're like, oh, I hope I get this item because I'm support this time, or I'm willing to sit out for support because I don't have this item. You know, I feel that doing something to at least not discourage people from helping you, or to further incentivize people helping you from the outside.
Okay. To make it clear how desperate we were, like you're sitting there helpless in front of a boss that you need other people to do stuff to remove its buff so that it becomes killable. I'm going to read to you a shout macro, which was made with the intention of inspiring people to get this done for us. It starts with /sh. Attention all Eureka gamers. Mr. Happy is in great danger and he needs your help to wipe out Proto-Ozma in the Baldesion Arsenal. To do this, he needs a Faint L and a couple of Dispel Ls. To help him, all you need is your credit card number and the 3 numbers on the back and the expiration month and date. But you got to be quick so that he can secure the clear and achieve the epic world first.
I didn't see this. Did this actually go off in the instance where we cleared it?
Yeah, it did. There you go. I'll put it in chat. Ooh. Everyone can use that now. Everyone can be a winner.
All right, hold on. I gotta, let's see. !adcom. Arse. Copy. No, I can't copy it when you guys keep posting in the chat. It changes it. All right. There you go. That's a copy pasta if I've ever seen one before. I didn't see that. I didn't know that had happened until just this moment.
It was good. And we killed it.
So it worked.
Yeah, exactly. It's got 100% success rate. Just chuck that on your instance and you're done. It's your Baldesion
Even if I'm not in there, fuck it.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Who did that?
It was, what's the name? Tulsia Ariette of, I want to say Jenova.
Were they in our group or were they outside?
They were in our group.
Okay.
They were one of the support crew a bunch of times.
Okay. Were they with us today when we went back in?
I don't think they were there today though, no.
Okay, because we did have some of the support group in there today.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I can see this shit. I can see this shit getting spammed in 5.0 when you are doing your world first race and you are streaming. I mean, it's not even gonna be like world first because you're streaming, but like even still, like this is gonna get spammed so much as you are doing prog, and I can't believe that actually fucking happened. Oh my god. I don't know what to do with my life now.
I don't know. Apparently it's not working because
You can remove this last chart.
Yeah, I'm just gonna edit it real quick. There you go.
But in terms of what you're gonna do with your life,
I'm putting that on a very long cooldown when the show's over.
Good call. But in terms of what you're gonna do with your life now, Sly, you're gonna take that Dispel L, you're gonna take that Faint L, and you're gonna go beat up a shark. All right, because Mr. Happy needs you.
This is, and people wonder why EM members do not normally get invited on, why they're always on Mog Talk. Because I'm in the same FC as them. So I don't get, when this is over, all I get in FC chat is that. More. I don't get to walk away from this show and be done with it. It will be a part of my every experience now inside of Eureka. And I am ruined. There are at least 24 macros. So, okay, good. To be fair, Cleese is allowed to do it because I coined a phrase with him.
Get cleased.
Yeah, don't get cleased when you're going through Hydatos. So he's allowed. I'll let him do it because of that. But yeah, there's not enough incentive for the people on the outside to help the people on the inside. And most of the time, a lot of people look at us as greedy dicks when we're trying to ask them to not participate. Which we don't want to be. We're just trying to make for the best chance possible.
It's the nature of the system, honestly.
Yeah.
So with that fate, not only is it significantly harder than any other fate that can spawn, and requires very specific actions to actually make it not just wipe everyone. In one of the JP data centers, people were intentionally leaving it to grief the players inside. And that puts so much power out of the hands of the people who are actually trying to clear this content. You're literally helpless in there.
Yeah. Don't go into portals. Oh, but kill this shark for us. Really, really hard ask. I mean, at least it gives them some Hydatos crystals, so there is a reason. But it should be giving them fragments, in my opinion.
This just seems so unfair on so many fucking levels.
It is. It's designed to
in
be
terms
unfair.
in terms of getting in, being in, and then being at the mercy of a power trip from people who didn't get in.
And then even if you do succeed it, the 8 portals that spawn, which you've reserved for your 8 people who are going to come in and fill your ranks, can be stolen.
And then those people can leave instantly, as we've experienced, finally.
Yeah. So it makes you feel extremely powerless as to how your run goes.
I mean, don't threaten me with a good time. But the majority of the people, like this has to seem like it. Like, you have talked so many people off the fucking ledge. I would assume. Like, they don't. I feel like this pushes people away from it. Like, when you talk about these things and you talk about these experiences, I feel like people are going to turn away now.
The way that I see it is that anyone who's currently in Hydatos has done every single Eureka so far, which means at some point they're going to want to do Arsenal, which means they're going to have to understand that if they do this to people, they're going to get it back because they're just going to create that kind of culture. I mean, maybe that's a little bit wishful thinking, but as soon as a precedent is set, especially in a community which is as small as the number of people who can do Hydatos and do Baldesion Arsenal, it's very much going to stay that way. And I think we're very lucky that we have a fairly damn good content, culture around it right now.
Yeah, there's been a lot of Discord groups popping up, trying to organize times for even people to just get in and get the first couple of bosses. One of the big things that we've brought up multiple times is gear with special stats for inside Eureka. And it very much feels like that's kind of the first goal before the average player thinks about, I'm going to go in and beat the last boss. They should be thinking about going in and collecting fragments to improve their stats. To give you an idea of how influential they are, it was mathed out. So if you go to the Magium Elder, it gives you a flat number for your elemental resists at 60. It's 1,779. Now that number is put immediately against the elemental stats of the enemy, and that's how you determine your damage and defense versus them individually. When they are level 66, it's as if they were elemental level 66. If you have a full set of elemental bonus armor from top to bottom, every piece, it's as if you were elemental level 68. Which, pretty big fucking deal.
Yeah, if you had a same level mob and a 8 level below mob, you'll notice the difference, as in like an extra digit at the end of your damage. It's enormous.
Yeah.
That number, the 68, is including the weapon as well, which is quite a grind within the arsenal itself.
Yeah. It's 28 fragments for a full clear with every chest, and you need 100 for the weapon. So your average player who's just doing the first 2 bosses and maybe the trash afterwards, they walk away with 12.
Yeah. So
you mostly end up getting the armor. Also, if you're picking up things like Damascene Cloth, that significantly cuts down the amount of fragments you need, because the Kieran's Oso, the Vermilion Cloaks, those are alternatives that don't require fragments. They require guild items. They can be bought off the market board, the cloths, the seals, as well as the items themselves. And those are huge, because it just cuts down the amount of Hydatos crystals you need, the amount of fragments you need, and on a body piece, which is one of the 2 expensive pieces of 35 fragments to upgrade.
As a ballpark, the chest piece itself, this was roughly mathed out by Balana. Just the chest piece gives you 20% more damage and take 20% less damage.
Is it the chest piece? Because I know that...
the coat, so it's the chest and hat.
Oh, yeah, the Vermilion. Yeah, okay. Because that's because
the
weapon is 348, which is exactly 20% of 1,779.
Yeah, but the numbers don't scale linearly.
Okay, yeah, that's the thing. Okay, yeah. So it's like that should be the, and that's why the NMs on the outside, Omni and Trizitia, should be giving fragments, because it helps those people. Now they're like, oh, I'm part of the progression. I can use these fragments to now go upgrade the stuff, and now I have a better chance inside. So that's why those outside NMs having value for your actual progression, that encourages people to keep doing them, to keep focusing on them, and then to eventually either pug it or join through Discord groups or whatever it is, or just to try and actually attempt the content. So that's why there's so many things here that don't work, but the things that do work are a lot of fun. Which has been Eureka as a whole, to be fair. But this is just another example of that. It's an idea I'd like to see again, but done better. Simple as that. As for the individual bosses, we haven't even gotten to talk about any of the bosses themselves. We talked a little bit about difficulty. This was an interesting way to do this dungeon, this boss, because even inside the amount of coordination that you need, before even getting in, you need coordination. But once you're in, the coordination for such easy bosses, because I'm going to say they're easy, is ridiculously intense. Your heart is just the whole time, every step you take in there.
And this is from a blind perspective.
Honestly, even when I'm not blind, I'm still like deathly afraid of like everything that's in there, because I know what the stakes are.
Okay. I'll put it this way. The biggest thing that you are ever in danger of is a tank not pulling correctly and you get auto-attacked by a mob once and you die. One auto-attack from mobs can kill any DPS or healer. Yeah, that you can die that easily. There are traps, there are just one-shots. That you got to be really on your toes the whole time.
Palace of the Dead. It's like the latest floors in like Palace of the Dead in Heaven on High. It's just, there's no room for error. There's ways to mitigate it, but today we learned that has a limit. Or we got real fucking close to it, because this is where planning Logos action starts to come in. So you need at least 2 people with the precision action, which is new. Now, that's not only to find traps that'll insta-kill you. You literally can't beat the 3rd boss if nobody has precision. Maybe if you just run around the rooms, you could find the portal and it would still work. I don't think so. But there's a portal that leads you to a secret room that you need the precision action to find. And there's traps that will just murder you everywhere. So that's the first thing. If you don't have 2 people with precision, you're probably fucked. You could try to throw a paladin with hollowed and maybe hope that he doesn't walk across a vulnerability trap, but you don't want to do that shit. Trust me. And then everyone needs Spirit of the Remembered. If you do not have Spirit of the Remembered, do not go into the Baldesion Arsenal. That gives you 10% more HP, 30% accuracy, which does matter a lot,
And free res.
a 70% chance to resurrect on death. Earlier, I said I coined a term for one Cleese, and so it failing to activate is now officially called being Cleased. And I'm going to explain to you why with another image from Twitter.
Okay.
One provided by Cleese himself. And so in our kill, there's one person who was resurrected 4 times with the 7. So this is a 70% chance of proccing. This person, who is unnamed, but their name begins with U, died 4 times and it procced 4 times. All these other people who died at various points, other than Cleese, almost all of them were resurrected with the 70%. Cleese died once, 3 minutes into the fight, and was not resurrected. And on the last boss in particular, Sly, this matters a lot more than every other boss. Because on the last boss, if you're dead, he will occasionally eject all dead corpses from the dungeon, and you will get nothing from him if he is defeated. Sly's silence says a lot. He's drinking his beer.
This just seems so much. No, like, really. Nope. Fuck it. No. You can't scare me. Don't threaten me with a fucking good time. No.
I've literally done nothing to threaten you with a good time.
Yeah.
Everything you just said is threatening me with a fucking good time or a bad time in this case, but I'm calling it good just to kind of psych myself up for it.
So what I've seen you saying, and even in chat, a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's not for casual players. It's definitely hardcore content." That's not necessarily true. None of the skills you need in there are difficult. You don't have to be a good player to beat it. You need to be average but consistent.
Average.
That's it. If you're average, you're good enough. That's it.
And then I recall what they said at the recent FanFest. Trust. Do I trust people?
Sly, you got 55 people debuffs made for the Baldesion Arsenal yet?
No, I gotta make 22 more.
Yeah. I am actually not a fan of this. I feel like ejecting you from the dungeon is fine, but you should still at the very least get the fucking achievement. I don't agree with you going through 2 hours of work to then die to somebody else's mistake, which is what happened to Cleese here, and not be rewarded.
I disagree completely.
Oh.
I mean, I think...
Please explain.
There are so many powerful abilities through the Logos actions that whether or not you die is entirely in your hands. At any point in time. Am I correct? If you know what you're doing.
Okay, I'll say yes. You're with Plate Bearer, yes.
With Plate Bearer, with solid, what's it called? Magic Shield.
Oh, Magic Shield.
Yeah, Spell Shield and Solid Shield. If you don't want to die, you cannot die as a DPS.
Or you can do more DPS than literally everybody by double. And
yeah, but that's in the trust thing that you're trusting other people don't murder you with balls.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cleese is like, are you sure about that? Sfia, you sure you want to go down this route? Because you get to play with me again.
I really think that the punishment is good because it's exactly the same as the whole way through. I mean, you don't get rewards if you don't open the chest after Raiden and you're not raised. Why would you get rewards for killing the last boss if you're dead at the end, you know?
Yeah, but I kind of agree. Is the punishment worth somebody else's crime, though?
I think that considering how many acceleration bombs have been screwed up, because that is the problem with the final boss, the #1 killer, is literally the mechanic that asks you to do nothing. It is always one of the #1 killers across all content. When you ask players to do nothing, it ruins everything. And acceleration bombs are just that thing. You're always afraid. You see it and you just, dude... I said today, I'm like, guys, I don't use ACT. I've never used an ACT trigger. If you are really afraid of acceleration bombs, you better fucking make an ACT trigger to know that you have one. All right? Because we've been in here for 2 fucking hours, and I don't want to wipe.
Did the world just end? Is the apocalypse happening?
I was like, I'm going to throw this suggestion out there, and immediately the whole of Elysium was like, whoa, Mr. Happy, that's against the terms of service. Listen, it's not Suzaku. I almost said Fold for some reason. Sly. Well, Fold died, so like he's another victim of this. So
there's one other thing that I think makes me feel like dying should still take away your rewards. And while I feel bad for people who died, like that sucks.
Give me a good reason to go a second time.
Nothing in there one-shots you.
Except Zantetsuken. And every version of Zantetsuken. But those are easy to avoid.
In the like, except for like obvious one-shot mechanics, right? There's no raid damage. Like you can stand in bad and live. There's a big difference between one-shot mechanics and mechanics. Mechanics don't kill you. One-shots do.
Falling off wood, for example.
Standing in bed.
Put on a shirt.
It kills you except when it doesn't.
Right. I worded that really, really badly, didn't I? Okay.
Nothing in there kills you. Obviously, there's things that kill.
I'll make a differentiation. I'll make a differentiation between mechanics, regular, and one-shot mechanics. Right? None of the regular mechanics will one-shot you. So you can stand in bed and live.
Yeah, so much so to the point where they were afraid of people abusing it too much, and if you get hit 3 times by something that you're not supposed to, and you don't die, it kills you instantly. You get a debuff that says, "Hey, stop being an asshole and stop being hit by things."
Yeah.
In our kill, Layla and one other person in our group had 2 stacks at one point. I'm like, don't get hit by anything else.
Layla's okay. Layla's okay. Layla's okay.
Yeah. Sfia died. You died on AV today, didn't you? Did you get hit by a Medusa?
Yeah, I laid down.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're in a country adjacent to Australia, so you have quite a bit of ping.
Better Australia, yeah.
Yeah, New Zealand for anyone who's wondering. Tasmanian, isn't that? Well, where's Tasmanian? I mean, they're in
Tasmania isn't
Tasmania.
Australia.
They're in Tasmania, but it's another island.
I think so. Well, that's nothing to do with New Zealand.
Okay.
It's definitely Australian.
Yeah. Okay. All the same. It's scary, man. That place is scary. I don't know what else to say about it, man. It's just that place is scary. Like
the only time
I thought I knew the ghetto. God damn.
The only time I've ever felt that type of tension is like Golden Bahamut in UCOB. Because you have the same sort of... It's not that it's difficult. It's that... I must have said something really bad.
Yeah, the police is right. It's the fucking ghetto.
That's for Fold and Cleese on our first clear. Anyway, moving on.
That is the fucking ghetto, yeah.
So it's not so much the difficulty of what you've got to do. It's the fact that you'll be wasting so much time if you fuck up. It's not about, I've got this very daunting mechanic in front of me. It's if I fuck up, I've wasted all this time. That's what the pressure is.
I almost puked after we killed it because I was tired. I've been packing boxes this week. I was working on stuff. There's things that I can't talk about too much just yet that are going on outside of the move. And I was literally, I yelled, yes! I almost puked at the same time because of how stressed I was in the last fight. I just didn't want to have to spend another 3 hours that day. I was like, no, it needs to be now, please. I have stuff to do. I need this. Oh, man. Okay,
it's very rewarding to kill them. They made a fight honestly fairly easy feel very rewarding. And that's a really cool way of doing it.
Oh.
And anyone can do it.
Yeah, I do feel like despite everything we're saying, the difficulty of the individual bosses is not that insane.
No, it's absolutely not. I've seen a lot of comments of people saying, oh, you just go in there with 55 Ultimate Legends and you're fine because they saw screenshots of everyone with their weapons and titles on and things like that. But you got to keep in mind that we went in there with no elemental gear. People were horrendously undergeared. We had pugs who didn't know strats that we were filling in before every pull. With a little bit of gear, elemental gear specifically, it becomes very, very easy if you know what you're doing going in, which by now everyone can.
Yeah, our second run, we did re-clears today for people who died. We also brought in one of the support teams, one of which was Larizar, who was in the instance that was rallying people to support us, you know, as we were trying. Like, he was coming into our instances as we were trying to go, and he was rallying people to be part of the support group. He was in there today with us. And it was a million times easier. I think there was one person who got ejected from our Ozma relatively early on. And we had a few unnecessary deaths to like the first boss. And where I learned that it was really good that I brought 4 fucking sacrifice Logos actions. And then I got cleased out of three times. I got cleased, which means I needed somebody else to sacrifice for me too. You do sacrifice chains. Every healer bring 3 or 4 fucking sacrifice plus remembered combos. That shit just... One of you bring Lesson, bring Bravery. One of you bring Protect and Shell, but fucking bring a bunch of them at the very least. For fuck's sake. That's another... We haven't even talked about all that shit for the various bosses. The Protect L's, the Shell L's, your fucking Magic Burst and Wisdom. It's like, we've gone into it a little bit, but we kind of forgot to mention fully giving everyone 5 minutes of Bravery and extra Protect and extra Shell and shit like that.
One thing that I want to say that I think was really, really cool about Eureka, the last 2 installments specifically, and now that we've got something to really put it against, is that the Logos sections make you feel really fucking powerful. Like, in video games, people like to feel powerful, right? I mean, people like Dark Souls and shit, but where you just get one shot by a skeleton. But for me specifically, I like mowing through trash and doing, you know, massive crits and things like that. And the Logos sections let you do that. Like, you feel powerful. You can cast death on mobs in there. You just one-shot them.
And I was using Repose to interrupt skills because they were sleepable. I'll like, instead of using a stun or a silence, we'll use Repose. And I can just spam it, and then the mob doesn't even go to sleep, but it just stops the spell. And then there are some groups that were actually using Repose when like they were down members to like make sure that they weren't overwhelmed. Like there were elements of it that were options. We were never like stuck with one way and only one way to do it. But Fold, don't ever use Double Edge again. Please. Don't ever use that again. You're not a black.
I clued him into that combo.
No.
I shouldn't have.
No. It's because you're too powerful. He wants to be as strong as you.
He's talked about going Double Edge without Bloodbath and just having a healer chain heal him through it.
I know. I'm in his party. We're both in his party. I'm the white mage. He's like, well, if you're over healing, and I'm like, Fold. No.
Don't let him. Do not let him.
He's like, but it'll lower your overheal percent. I'm like, Fold. I don't need this. He's like, you're already casting the cure. Fold. Don't do it. And he's still going to do it. I know he's going to do it at one point. He's going to fucking yeet that with a Remembered and hope for the best.
That's all right.
That's all right. Man, I'm talking about it now. I want to go in again. Like, that's weird. I really did think I would be like, fuck it, I beat it. Good. Fuck off. But I want to do it again. I want to beat it for more people.
This is content, now that I think about it, that would be really good to do on other jobs. Just get the left-hand side.
Mage. Yeah, I don't rate on White Mage.
Yeah. Just get the left-hand side elemental gear and you can do all of it. That will be really, really fun to do.
Yeah,
because it's not difficult. The healing checks aren't difficult. The mechanic checks aren't difficult. Knowing the ins and outs of your jobs aren't required. But
there's no weekly lockouts on loot to prevent you from maybe being geared enough to do it. It's literally just a grind for loot kind of thing. No daily caps, even no instance by instance caps. You can literally... Oh, another thing we didn't talk about for that support party, by the way, is them not being able to get the earlier loot. That's another thing. So we mentioned we were talking about getting loot and progression just now. It reminded me. That support group that comes in late, they can't pick up the chests.
That's a terrible idea to let them do that, because then you get people zoning in, taking the loot. See ya.
I guess it depends, because again, this is different for us again than it is for everyone else. Yeah. Because like we're asking a group to sit out and be the support group. For them, I'd love if they could get it, but like when you're thinking about pugs, then all of a sudden it's questionable if you really want, because I think it wouldn't be as big a deal if again the outside bosses gave fragments.
Yeah, completely.
I think that actually eliminates that, but that is a current concern with the design for support groups, specifically for pre-mades. So yeah, you're right. That actually won't be that much an issue if they do anything we've suggested thus far.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I do not want to incentivize portal thieves.
Yeah. And I have seen a lot of people go, yeah, chat's bringing this up. I mean, I did a fragment run today where we had a ton of first-timers. We were just teaching a ton of first-timers how to do it. There was a lot of people who didn't get to make it past the first or second boss, but we did manage to teach a lot of people. And it's good. And that's going to really be what this content kind of relies on, is good people, teaching people who haven't done it yet. So I hope that continues. I hope these Discord groups do well. Weekly runs. Listen, if Revival Wings can be a thing, and I'm not a big fan of the previous map for Rival Wings when Revival Wings was made, if they can, if they've been able to orchestrate that week by week, I don't see there's any reason why people can't orchestrate Hydatos stuff week by week. Yeah. Personally. What's that
Everyone
face for, Sly? What's that face for, Sly? Come on. Come on, Sly.
I don't know. I just don't have faith in people.
But none of us did. None of us did, Sly. I'm pretty sure even with all of us knowing...
with an open heart and an open mind, but I just don't have faith in people. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, throughout the weeks, yeah, sure. Maybe. Yeah.
I hope, because I want more people to enjoy this. It was thrilling. I think a lot of people, when they clear it for their first time... Larry, who again joined us for our second clear today, was his first time clearing it all the way through on his own. He's been talking about how he really enjoyed it, and he got to understand it and see that perspective a lot. He even said it right there. This alone redeemed Eureka for me. I just don't think it needs to be behind Eureka. I don't think those two types of content mix, but at the same time, breaking the rules and having a separate zone. I just think that going through 4 zones to get to this at the end is not the right design choice. You need more than one public dungeon as Eurekas are releasing and shit. I don't know if you feel the same way, Sfia. Sfia's
even an encounter, like a single boss that you can enter and do, something to show that there's light at the end of the tunnel, more or less, because nobody had any idea what type of experience we'd get once we were done with Eureka. And what it turned out to be was amazing. And I'm so glad that I did Eureka, even though I fucking hated it at times. But if people saw how, and in the future they will know that, public dungeon is incredible. Let's do this slog to get there. Then it's okay. But it's just unfortunate for the people who are not there now.
Yeah. Guys, just be willing to go into 1 or 2 boss runs to get enough Eureka gear until more people are comfortable with AV, which was also a fucking hilarious design. It's like, you don't know how AV is spawned, do you?
No.
Man, is that bullshit. Hilarious bullshit, but it's bullshit. I don't even think you could guess how the fuck you do it. You need to walk into, there's 6 different rooms, all with trash in them. One of them's got a secret portal you got to discover with a precision logos action. You got to go into that portal. Then there's 6 more rooms in that portal. You need to send a party into each of them, kill the mobs that are inside so you can open the door after it closes on you, which then simultaneously spawns an NM outside that must be killed in order to weaken Absolute Virtue so he's killable. And before that, people will just walk up to AV and just die. Sly's putting the pieces together.
I'm mapping this shit out.
So do you want me to give it to you in simpler terms? Right? We had to use a scanner to find a hidden portal in a room to take us to an identical floor in another dimension, which when you go into, all the rooms have buttons to stand on, which triggers something to spawn outside the instance, which needs to be killed, which replaces the boss with a weaker version.
I think they hit Final Fantasy XI's AV pretty much right on the head with this one. If you
It's
don't
so
know...
simple, though. How did we not get it straight away? How did we not see this immediately? Right? We walk in and we pull the boss. Oh, we're meant to go to the portal to take us to a different dimension to, overlap with the one that we're in now and go into the Umbral tier and then back into the Astral. So obvious. So obvious.
You all right over there, Sly? What do you got? What do you got right there? Yeah. What is that? Are you pouring yourself another beer?
Yes, I am.
It was a lot of fun though, Sly.
Hooray!
You know what's funny? In Final Fantasy XI, it was still pretty weird how you actually weakened him in 11, because you did have to weaken him in 11, and oddly enough, it was with killing sharks, the same exact type of mob. But in 11, people made rumors on how to do it, and this basically took those rumors and made them reality on top of the actual things that weakened him. So, like, in 11, people thought you had to use Ebon panels, which were locked away in the Garden of Rynoet, which, by the way, is the name of the background track that it uses for the actual Hydatos dungeon from Final Fantasy XI. You had to go to those panels, press them simultaneously while simultaneously killing the various jailers at the same... People made up all sorts of random bullshit like this for Absolute Virtue, and it just came down to you had to use an ability at the same time as him. We looked at the six I remember that there's a bunch of towers on the outside. There's like a bunch of like little like lasers that like protect the tower. We at one point thought we're gonna need people on the outside to activate those fucking things.
We also thought that you needed to use the abilities that he used while he was casting them before he was, not unkillable. When he was unkillable. Yeah, it was...
Yeah, when he was unkillable still. We thought we had to use, like, Indom when he used Invincible, and, like, Elder when he used Chain Spell, and shit like that. So we were ready to go there, but no, they made it way easier.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Benediction, Hologram, and shit, yeah. It was, oh boy. It was a good time. I need alcohol, too. Thinking about it. Badly. Okay. I think we've hit on most of the points, other than, I guess, talking about directly the rewards from being in there. There's an Absolute Virtue minion. There's a Samurai Zantetsuken, a Dark Knight Zantetsuken, upgrades for the 405 and 390, armor and weapons, and claws and seals for Kieran's Osodes, Vermilion Cloaks, an Orchestrion roll, and, of course, if you're alive at the end of all of that, the Ozma mount. So do we think there needs to be any adjustments to the reward structure for this?
I think no. I think everything there is Eureka exclusive except for the mount. And that's really cool. Like, they're all relevant to Eureka, should I say. There's a couple of glamour pieces which are functionally... It's glamour pieces, right? You get those, they're everywhere. It's in the same, like, exclusive content like this is. There are map stuff, there's whatever. But anything that actually contributes to your character in terms of gear progression is only tied to Eureka. And I like that. And the mount is incredible. Best mount in the game. Hands down.
I like it on the ground better than in the air. I like the transformations when it goes air or underwater, but I think it looks best on the ground.
I just change all the time. I'm just bouncing off and on, and underwater. Yeah, that's all I do now.
I'm going to adjust my headset battery because I forgot to swap it before. Shout out to Steel Series, so I don't have to actually like plug it in or anything. Bam. Done. I can hear everyone again. Dunzo. Yeah, I think, again, they should go a little crazier with the Eureka stuff in terms of the effects on the armor, but other than that, I was mostly okay with the way this works, mostly because you get a cloth and a seal guaranteed at the end of it all. And, well... Let's just say that I'm going to save them for when the auction house is a little more barren.
Or your Sindolf and Mrs. Zero on both of them.
I thought that was Matt. Oh, did Sindolf do it too?
Sindolf. He did it with both of them, both the cloth and the seal. He dropped a 0.
See, Matt did it on our first kill yesterday. I didn't know Sindolf did it as well.
Yeah.
God bless the people who looked at the auction house that day then. God damn.
Yeah.
But I think we've exhausted at least the majority of our emotions towards that. Most of the feedback. Is there anything else you had questions about for that Sly? Oh, there is one other thing. I just thought about Sly.
Use your words.
Sly, remember how we talked about the branching story paths?
Yeah.
There's more story after you beat the Baldesion Arsenal. You get the true ending for your path.
There can only be one true ending.
Well, this is where I mean the payoff isn't too high because they're very similar.
Yeah.
Like technically a different thing happens in each of them, but the end result is approximately the same. That's the most I can say without saying exactly what happens. But I have seen both endings at this point. But it was weird to see them put story behind this. Even if it's not a super big portion of story, it's still story.
You know what? I want to reserve my thoughts because I was really about to say something, and this is something we brought up so many times, and it gets brought up in terms of casual versus hardcore and yada, yada, yada. I don't want to judge until I actually have been. So I'm going to reserve judgment.
All right. That's fine. Yeah, go in. Try it. Have a good time. Try to find the Primal Discord. I know they're running tonight, and if you ever want to run, I don't know if it's public or if it's too populated and they're trying to get kills first. I don't know what the status is on it. But if they're open...
I have nothing but time. I'm good. Get kills, please. Do you, boo boo, please.
Yeah. So I would highly recommend giving it a shot, especially in one of those giant pre-made groups, because it'll be a way better experience than literally going into a zone and praying for the best, which I saw happen earlier in one of the instances I was in. Just full pug. They did get to the second boss. I don't think it had much success after.
That experience is just going to get better and better, though, with time and with more exposure.
With time and
more exposure, more gear, more everything.
Yeah.
So with that, gentlemen, I think we can finally wrap up the show. Went about a little bit over 2 hours here, but I suspected that with Sfia and I's week in the way that it went. So if there's nothing else to say, then let's do our sign-offs. Sfia, you are our guest. You will go first.
Do I start?
Yeah, you're going to start.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for having me, especially you two. What am I supposed to say here? Just shout out to whoever?
And yeah, whatever you want. Anything else you got going on, your stream, any other events you're doing? I know you're on another podcast tomorrow, so.
Oh, right, yeah, you can catch me tomorrow. I'm on Frosty's Mog Talk. That's happening 2 p.m. Eastern.
It'd probably be a good idea if you figured out when it was.
Time, huh? Let me look at that real quick.
I'm glad that this is part of our show now. I think it's 2 p.m. Pacific. But unless 1 p.m. Eastern. Oh, wow, you're going really early tomorrow. Damn. That's really early.
1 p.m. Eastern. 1 p.m. Eastern. All right. So we're going 1 p.m. Eastern.
Layla's getting it wrong. At 1 p.m. Pacific. I was right. He does do it.
1 p.m. Pacific. Yeah. Okay. I'm pretty sure that's right. 1 p.m. Pacific.
Oh my god.
I'll be there at that time, whatever that is in my time. Other than that, you can check out my Twitter at FFXIV or my Twitch, which is SfiaP. SFIAP.
There you go. Thank you, Sfia,
real quickly, just a shout out to my FC, all the organizers who helped us out. Perez, massive shout out, Layla as well. And to the enormous community that came behind us to get this done. Not just the 56 in party, but the dozens and dozens others who were zoning in and out helping us out. It was incredible. Really incredible.
Thank you again, Sfia, for joining us. Very last minute. again with 20 minutes heads up. He went and got food and said, "I'm there," and we appreciate that. Since our Aussie had strep. So, Sly, you know how this goes. You've been here before. Where can they find you at? What are you up to?
I'm not going into the Arsenal anytime soon. I know that's
no, just go in tonight, Sly. Come on.
No. Well, hi, I'm Sly. Nice to meet you. You can find me at twitch.tv/Sly, aka Greyfox. You can find me at Instagram at Sly, aka Greyfox07. You can find me at Twitter at Slythefox. YouTube.com/The Velvet Room. I just need Jesus.
All right. You just need Jesus?
Oh, you made me choke.
Listen, I think Jesus might have a bit of a problem with the people debuffing there too. So I don't know how much you really want. I don't know how much Jesus is gonna help you, but that's a thing at the very least.
It's something. It's Jesus. But yeah, like really nothing new going on. Although we did, even though I was on front page last week. Yeah,
Saturday,
last Saturday. I did get it cemented again for the release of SRWT, aka Super Robot Wars T. So we're gonna animate front page up again. Looking forward.
You're going robot-y. You're going very, very anime robot. I suppose I didn't see you hopping on that God Eater 3 action.
Everybody says that. Like, I feel like that's gonna be a not real. I always call it guilty pleasure game, but it's just shit that I do when I'm not sure. So that's what I'm probably gonna end up doing. God Eater 3.
Okay, I can respect that. I got that feel. That's me and Realm of the Mad Gods. Sorry, I like roguelites. I'm sorry. All right. As for me, the last guy on the show, Mr. Happy127, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Reminder, there will be no show next week. I said it at the start of the show as well. I'm moving to the San Francisco area, so not going to really be able to organize that. So, Sly, you get the week off, and I get a week of not being 100% set up for anything at all. I'm not going to shout that I'm not going to shout the Eureka thing when I get to San Francisco. That much I know for certain, since I keep seeing the command popping up in my chat. Other than that, there was one other thing I was going to say, and I totally distracted me from it. Now I can't remember. So it couldn't have been that important.
Save it for show.
We're done as far as I am concerned. Also, people pointed out it doesn't say faint, it says Fennit in the shout. Which makes it way better. Way better. So that's I think that just makes it like almost fold quality, but not quite there yet. We do have some things to announce in the near future, but we will not be announcing it yet. So those are please look forward to it, which we are experts at here in Final Fantasy XIV. Hi, exactly. So for that, we will be seeing you 2 weeks from now. That'll probably be a Tuesday show, Sly, so hopefully you got that in your calendar. And we'll probably have Ethos on that show because there are some lore implications to talk about. We are probably going to be discussing some of the recent things that have been hot topics. Hrothgar was one thing that we went over today. We kind of want Ethos on the show for talking about that. Terms of service we might talk about a little bit more. But we will be discussing a few more things with Ethos on the show next time. And I'll be sure to let him know. So I'm just kind of electing him for 2 shows from now, or for 2 weeks from now. So thank you, everyone.